Well, Jim, we have a lot of things to talk
Yes.
about. Why don't we start with something that something I saw, and everyone saw this, and their first thought was, what's Jim going to say about this? Something went up this week. I believe it's from Reddit. Someone in the AEW official group.
How official can they be if they're on Reddit?
Well, the headline says, Riho saying she made over 60 million yen, which is around $400,000.
God, well, there's a drop-off.
In AEW last year. Has anyone seen Riho's interview on TV Asahi's Pinkery? She was talking about...
What, Pinkery?
I don't know, Pinkiri.
In the Stinkery?
She was talking about visa issues that prevent her from coming to America right now, and she was also asked how the money is in AEW compared to Japan, and she revealed that she is making way more money than in her last Stardom run, saying that she made over 60 million yen in 2023, approximately $400,000, which is quite shocking, given that she has only wrestled like 10 times.
What the...
Good for her. But it seriously makes you think how AEW can afford those salaries. And again, this is what she said publicly. We don't know if it's true. We assume. Also, they came out and immediately disputed when Okada was purported making $12 million. There was some pushback from AEW. Haven't seen any pushback about this right now. But the overall conversation about the salary structures in AEW, did you have any idea that Riho would be making something like this?
Well, now, let's just ask all kinds of questions here. Let's just start out with, if 60 million yen equals 400,000 American dollars, do they have a 1 yen note? And what the fuck does it buy?
And I guess millionaire as a term may not mean so much.
And then, so if Okada was going to make 12 million American dollars, what is that? 500 billion Japanese? How are the measurements so far off the beam in global finance these days? Commerce, whatever. Anyway, that's a couple questions. I mean, this is more in the realm of, gee, it could go either way. It could be true. It could not, rather than we figured the, several $1 million a year that they were banning around was because that was their top star that left the country or left the company basically to come to AEW. They had to make it look in the Japanese press like, he couldn't turn this down. And obviously Riho couldn't turn down $400,000 a year either. Is it... is that something that Tony would have done based on whoever's say so? Probably, maybe. It's not ridiculous, but at the same time, it could also be her saying, oh, well, maybe that's a little more than she made or considerable. If it's $200,000 and that's an unofficial count, the guy says she wrestled like 10 times. Do you think she could have wrestled more than 20 or 25? Even doing dark matches or YouTube or whatever when she comes and goes. And if it's a visa issue, that means she can probably only come over. Well, I may be exposing somebody's business here. If she can only stay a certain amount of time, like a few months at a time, she may be coming over as a visitor. Who would look at her in the airport and say, that's a wrestler? So she's safe there. But my God, does that mean if she's making half of that and she had 20 matches, then $200,000 for 20 matches, he's paying her $10,000 a match? It's getting a little bit more believable, although stupid.
One of the listeners in the Cult of Cornette group posted, Sean Jaramillo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the fact that Riho can outdo my salary for an entire school year with 2 matches makes me sad.
What? And
that is insane. That if you said to me, what do you think Riho's making? I would say, you know what? Tony's a generous guy when it comes to the friends of the friends. 200, 225. It's ridiculous. Not worth it, but I could see it. $400,000 for Riho. Jeez. Unless it's like a base of $100,000 and she made $300,000 in amazing royalties that we're not aware of.
Yeah, and also again, even though she's doing it with the Japanese press and the intention is to glorify yourself somewhat, if you're smart, she's probably not that smart that she'd want to lie in the press. She may be, but maybe that's it, including her, expense reimbursement to fly back and forth all the time from here to Japan. That he's also out, if that's not including that. And then where in the world, lodging her? Do they get long-term studio apartment type of things for the international talent when they're over here for a while? Where would Riho stay in this fine country of ours?
I'll be at the Chateau Kenny.
Oh, I forgot. All right. But anyway, so at least that's not an expense. But
again, $400,000.
Yeah.
If this is true, and again, whether it's athletes, usually their agents do the talking. You don't see them doing it, or actors, celebrities. Usually people don't want to talk about or confirm or make any declarative statements about how much money they're making publicly. You never really see that, right?
Well, again, when
The Rock's not doing that, we hear how much money he's making. That's the kind of guy you think would be bragging. Yeah, I'm getting all this money for pissing in bottles and doing whatever the fuck I want. But Riho's out there just saying this publicly. This is not someone reporting it in the press. This is her saying it.
Well, and again, the reason why I'm thinking it might not be ridiculously out of line is because this is 5 years on with this company, and I was talking to a number of people when in MLW that some that ended up in AEW and some that didn't, but they were in the locker room. They were talking about how much money that guys who had never been on television, had some level of name and recognition in the indies, but had never been on TV, how much money they were being offered and accepting and signing for that was multiple times per show or multiple times per week what they were earning doing what they were. In other words, they would have gone for less, right? But that was before the company even officially debuted on television. So 5 years later, I'm sure salaries have risen, but these were six-figure deals for people that had never had figure deals. So it's believable, unfortunately.
Jeez.
And some people out there go, well, he's against the talent. He doesn't want the wrestlers to prosper. There has to be some perspective. It was like that when Sal Cornette was doing those Legends reunions, the big giant wrestle reunion where everybody that ever wore tights was there. And of course, he had investors' money, which they ended up in court over the whole thing. Everybody. I told him, I said, I know that it's somebody else's money, but if you actually make some back, they will give you more, right? That's I know that everybody deserves to make as much money as they can that somebody will pay them. But when you look at from a business standpoint, from anybody who's ever been on the other end of the business besides being a talent, or for someone who has been responsible with big or small companies for dispensing the salaries or the grosses from the gates or however the talent was paid, commensurate with their contribution to that money coming in, it's fucking crazy. It's if Riho could ride a Greyhound bus from Japan to come to the shows, it wouldn't be worth reimbursing her for the fucking ticket and her salary for what she actually contributes or does not contribute to the product. But anyway, I digress.
And what do you think now if you're one of the other talent on the roster who's not making that much? Whether it's Riho or anyone, someone who's never there, barely works, isn't a mover of numbers or merch, They tried to say that Riho was a big ratings mover. That was exposed in the last year. And that was, I guess, the limited time she was around. Remember, she just reappeared. They started running her out there in the main events, and then she was gone again. I guess these visa issues. How are they still having these visa issues 5 years into this with some of the talent?
Well, especially when it's been the same person for the past 5 years that is continuing to have a visa issue. Once you would think that would be settled, but again, it's not to pick on Riho because she may not move the ratings, she may not move the gates, she move the needles, she moves the bishop on a few strange people is about what she moves, but it's not limited to her. There are people there that I'm sure, well, we heard one of the people that got released also said he was working a second job so he could get him and his wife out of the shithole they lived in. So we know there are people that are on per event deals and not being used or ain't getting much money. But we've more heard the opposite end of the spectrum is that everybody that you hear from the time that they started the company has been signing for more money than they've made before, as I mentioned earlier, because they hadn't been involved in the big companies and major contracts, or there's people that are choosing AEW because they get approximately the same amount of money for much less work. Whether he's paying them slave wages or he's overpaying them, we've said a lot of people are making a lot of money and he's got hundreds of them. And that cannot fucking sustain itself as a business.
Hey, Jim, we are going to pick up this conversation shortly. We're going to take a short break just because there are some technical issues, some audio issues, so we're going to see what we can do about fixing them.
Oh, you're mad at my internet again.
Well, I'm not going to use the word mad or hate or really, really angry. I'm not going to use any of those words.
How about
pissed
disgusted?
off, livid. I'm not going to say any of these things. What I am going to do is fix things for the good people listening to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this.
Oh, you were just looking for an excuse to play that thing.
I had a couple of options. It was time travel, and you'll be a little disoriented when we come around on the other side, or something happy and jovial to get us back in the mood. That good old mood.
Yeah. All right, you should have recorded you trying to tell me how to turn Skype off and turn it back on from scratch.
That was a fun 55 minutes.
I was playing Twister on the goddamn keyboard. Well, press Control and Delete and Alternate and whatever the fuck all at the same time. Left foot red.
Well, again, we're talking about $400,000 that's gone missing.
No, we weren't.
We weren't?
We know where it went, and we finished that discussion.
Oh.
I said it's ridiculous, is what it is.
Well,
We know where it went.
We do know where it went.
And we know that cleaning woman Clara Clifford discovered that kleptomaniac Claude Cooper from Cleveland is the one who copped the clean copper clappers that were kept in the closet at the Acme School Bell Company.